importantly, we're doing it. It's happening, and it's going to get going this term for sure. And again, I know Simeon Brown, it's very high on his priority list as well. He's talked about it, and we're very supportive of it. We're discussing with the local government exactly as the funding mechanisms, but importantly, it's going to get done.
Heading to Wairoa tomorrow, what do you hope to get from that visit?
Well, look, I've been to Wairoa before. Obviously, that's a really challenged community with respect to limited access in and out of Wairoa. It's been through an incredibly tough time over the last year and a half. And again, you've seen flooding of 180 homes in areas that weren't previously, hadn't flooded before. So for me, it's about making sure we're on the ground. I'm particularly focused on what we're doing immediately around the cleanup. We've got $1 billion set aside in our budget, in Budget 24, to deal with cyclone recovery and weather event recovery. We've got $7.5 billion sitting in our multi-year capital allowance as well. So, we've had Mark Mitchell up there, I think, 3 times now over the course of the last week or so. We've had our MPs back in the region as well. I've spoken to Mayor Little. I'm looking forward to seeing it for myself on the ground and seeing what else we need to do.
Is there more funding coming with your visit tomorrow?
Well, I want to see what's happening on the ground, and again, that's not the issue. The issue is actually making sure we make the right decisions and we actually get things done and things start happening up there.
Prime Minister, Health New Zealand is in a hiring freeze for non-frontline roles. How can you guarantee that won't affect frontline services?
Well, what I'd say to you is there's been massive growth in frontline services and roles. I think in the last 6 months there's been a couple of thousand nurses that have been hired. I can't remember the exact number, but I know there's been a big step up in actually the nurse shortages that we've been encountering, and we've hired a lot more nurses. Again, actually what's happened there is that there's no blanket freeze. What it is that the actual decisions about local hiring has actually been given and devolved back to the local health authority, so they can actually tailor it to the regions that they're in rather than doing that centrally out of Wellington. So, as you've seen, it's a government deeply committed to health. We've just put $16.7 billion into the healthcare budget. We founded $1.8 billion to fund Core Pharmac, and we've got $604 million going in for cancer drugs and other new medicines, of which it was really exciting to see today 2 of those new cancer drugs are working their way through the system and will be funded from the 1st of October, which is pretty exciting. Things like Keytruda, which will make a huge difference to many cancer sufferers. So, be really clear, this is a government that is spending more on health than we've ever spent before. We are determined to make sure we have a world-class healthcare system. We know it's complex. We know we've got workforce challenges. We know we've had funding challenges with massive bureaucracy sitting in Wellington. We want that money deployed out to the front line to improve those services.
Southern mental staff have been offered counselling services to deal with the stress. Are you comfortable with that?
Sorry, can you explain the question?
Just the government reading it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Southern mental staff have been offered, I think it rolls in from your previous question, Southern mental staff have been offered counselling services to deal with stress. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, no. I mean, we know the system is incredibly stressed, and we have a fantastic people in our healthcare system, and it's often the system that's let them down, and that's why I want to see better delivery, better support, better focus of frontline services in our healthcare system. That's why this government cares about health. We said we're going to deliver better public services in health and education, and that's why we've pumped so much more money into it.
Will you increase the royalty paid to government by mining companies from 2%?
Oh, look, it hasn't been a topic of conversation in our government. We haven't had a discussion about that.
Okay.
Prime Minister, do you have a response to how you're going to progress under the national government the wool industry in New Zealand?
Well, look, I mean, wool's a classic in terms of over the last 30 years there hasn't been enough or sufficient innovation in the sector. And I know the wool levy was taken away some time ago in tough times, and now it's incredibly tough because actually people don't get revenue for the costs that they're actually incurring in generating that. I've seen that across the country. So we have a major challenge in wool. Either we just continue to do commodity stuff, which doesn't really take us forward, or we actually put some innovation behind it and actually see what else we can do with it. There's some very exciting research and development projects happening, for example, in Lincoln, where I saw a great one where actually wool being ground down to a powder as a carrier for paint and pigment, and also in the cosmetics industry. Those are really exciting developments where we actually need a lot of innovation and creativity, which we do so well in New Zealand, but that's actually how we get value out of that sector. But yes, we can sell more wool and carpet. Yes, we can put more wool and insulation in places, but I'm telling you, that's not going to move the needle. We need to be able to really innovate very strongly and reinvent wool and what it means and how we can get higher prices for it. So I agree with you. I think that's a sector that I've spoken to the Agriculture Minister and ministers about, is about how do we actually get more innovation into wool so we can get higher value added products made available so we can get higher prices and better returns to farmers.
Last couple guys.
Yes, sorry.
A couple of questions for TVNZ, sorry. How do you feel about your UK Conservative colleagues bombing in the election?
Well, it's up to the UK people to decide who they elect as their leaders and their government. My job as New Zealand Prime Minister is to work with every leader that our partner countries deliver. I'm very confident we'll have a very good relationship with whichever leader the UK people decide. My job is to make sure I've got good relationships with all leaders.
Two more questions. Is Shortland Street popular in your household?
It's not at the moment because we don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch it, but it used to be, and you're not in Guatemala anymore, Dr. Apata.
The Associate Minister of Immigration has granted a Tongan overstay a 5-year temporary visa after a family fought to keep her here. Why was it appropriate for the Minister to step in?
Well, we have a standard protocol, standard process around those sorts of cases. Obviously, I can't comment on those individual cases. As I understand it, in this case, new information was recently brought to light by the family, and so I understand that's been resolved.
On military-style academies, abuse survivor and survivor advocate King Clearwater wrote to you recently regarding his concerns about the policy. Have you seen that correspondence, and what is your response?
Well, my response very clearly is we're not accepting the status quo of what's been happening in New Zealand. We're not accepting a quadrupling of ram raids. We're not accepting a 100% increase in retail crime, a 50% growth in gangs and a 33% growth in violent crime. We are going to do things differently. And pundits and media and commentators may not like it, but I'm sorry, we are going to try some different things. And what we have done is undertaken influence, a direction from the defence, from police, from the LSV program, from community organisations doing amazing work. And I think we're building a program which we're going to pilot in July to make sure we make powerful, targeted interventions in those young people's lives. We have the serious young offender category designation in place. That gives judges the opportunity to direct 14 to 17-year-olds into the military-style academies. In those places, there's 3-month program residential, 9-month getting community. One of the big learnings is they can have a great time in the residential program where you can turn a young person around, but if you then send them back to the same environment that they're in and they don't integrate them back into the community, it doesn't kind of work as well. So that's why we've got the community organisations in there from day one, working with these young people on their respective challenges and issues. So we are going to try some things differently, and I get it. New Zealand, I've heard a lot of it from the media in particular and commentators saying they don't like it, and I get it. But I'm sorry, I'm on the side and I care deeply about those young people. I care deeply about those victims of crime, not the offenders as much, and I care deeply about making sure we get lower levels of crime in this country. We have to restore law and order so people feel safe in their homes, their businesses and communities. And if we just walk by and say that's just how it is in New Zealand, I'm sorry, that's not what I came here to do.
When you announced it in 2022, though, you said those boot camps will be run by the military. It's now going to be OT in charge. How can you...
We've always said they're military-style academies. We've got influences with defence have given input into the design, police have given input into the design. We've seen elements of an older program, a more voluntary program called LSV, which we know has been very successful. It's got elements of that. We've got amazing community organisations, which I've spent time with in the last 3 years, and others have as well, that actually are going to be there with those young people, working through their particular challenges and issues, including their siblings, including their whānau, as we work their way through them. We want them set up for success. We want those lives turned around because we know where they're going, and they ain't going to a good place. And so we're going to make a powerful, targeted intervention to give it a shot. And why on earth wouldn't we try something different given how abysmal the results have been?
Thanks, guys. We've got to go.
Yes, sorry.
Last question.
Another Shortland Street question?
Can you get direction to Farmex announcement today?
Well, isn't it fantastic, that a coalition government has spent more on health than any previous government, up $16.7 billion, fixed the funding cliff left by the last lot to the tune of $1.8 billion, didn't fund Farmex, and our government stepped forward and is spending another $604 million to give 54 new medicines that will benefit 175,000 New Zealanders. So it's a pretty exciting day, and when you see drugs like Keytruda being available very, very shortly, fully funded, available to New Zealanders who desperately need them, I'm really excited about it. And that's one of the great achievements, I think, and something I feel very, very proud about. And I think it's a fantastic thing and a great outcome being delivered by this coalition government to deliver better healthcare services to New Zealanders.
Thanks, guys. Say that for News Hub today, last day. A message for all?
Yeah, look, I mean, I was on the show yesterday morning. I've always enjoyed the AM show, and I just want to say thanks to all the News Hubbers for all the work that they've done and for the contribution they've made to New Zealand over many, many years, and I wish them all the very best. Okay, thanks so much.